Welcome everyone to another episode of Stogies and Straps. Thank you for joining me today. We have yet another beautiful guest sitting across from me. We're gonna have some convo. Our guest doesn't smoke stogies, which is fine, which is great, which is cool. I'm gonna have one. It's just the way things work. But we're gonna have a great conversation today. Thank you all for tuning in and giving us a part of your day. I appreciate that. So, ma'am.
Hi.
I'm not gonna steal your thunder. That beautiful smile of yours. Why don't you tell the people who you are and what you do?
Okay, I am Kayla Christian, and I am the founder and chief instructor of Pretty Defensive, where I provide firearms training. I teach concealed carry classes, situational awareness, plethora of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Pretty Defensive.
Yes.
Now you know I'm a firearms instructor, right?
I've heard.
Oh, you've
yes,
heard?
I've heard.
Just a little bit?
I've heard a little bit. Something.
Pretty Defensive, though. That's interesting. Where'd you get that name from? Let me say this. I like it.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Thank you.
So what was the concept behind that?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I came up with it on my couch.
All right.
Yep. It was this business was bred during COVID when everybody was sitting at home. My cousin called me up. My background's I'm a law enforcement officer. I was a law enforcement officer. I was a law enforcement officer for the past 8 years. Okay. And my cousin called me up. She knew I was a firearms instructor for law enforcement. She said, "Hey, I want to go buy a gun." I said, "Cool. All right, let's go." So we went to a big local store that we know of, and I walked in, and there was a line that was to the back of the store. I was like, "Man, what is going on?" And the line was made up of all different types of people. And it got me thinking, man, this is a lot of people who are getting firearms. I wonder if they're trained. Or I wonder if they know what they're doing, or are they just buying these because they're scared? And now we have a bunch of untrained, scared people, in my community. What can I do about it? And I started thinking, I was like, man, well, I have a lot of training that, we kind of keep within the law enforcement bubble. Why can't I give that out to my community? I want to start teaching. So brought it up to my agency. They said, sure, but you got to go get your own instructorship. I said, cool. Became a USCCA instructor. And then I developed my business. Now come up with the name, right? I was like, what am I going to call this? I'm not a super serious person. I'm pretty bubbly. And I really wanted this to represent me and people who are like me, because representation matters, right? Representation matters. So I was coming up with all different types of stuff. And I remember I didn't want a gun in my logo because I didn't want it to come off. Sometimes that can come off a little hard for women. So I was like, man, what can I do? So it's a Pretty Defensive. It's a play on words. Sometimes people are like, man, you're pretty defensive. And I started thinking about it. Well, I am pretty defensive. I am pretty defensive. I know what I'm talking about, and I know how to use the skills that I've been taught. That makes me pretty defensive, and I'm pretty defensive. Okay. So, and also when I thought about my career as a law enforcement officer, I've always been teased for that, right? They would always say, "Oh yeah, Christian. Oh yeah, she might look innocent, but she'll mess you up," type of thing. So I've always stuck to who I was as a law enforcement officer. So just because I had to wear this, to me, ugly uniform did not mean that I had to act a certain type of way, or I'm gonna still be me. And, I'm gonna still be feminine because that was me. And I was telling other women or men, whoever, you can stay true to who you are and still learn this skill, all right? And because that's what firearms is, right? It's a skill. So you don't have to look a certain way, talk a certain way. Yeah, I know firearms is all tactical, right? It's gritty. You can still get into this industry and learn about this tool and stay true to who you are and still be cute. It doesn't all have to be army green and BDUs, right? We can add a little bit of lavender or pink in there. Yeah, we can make it cute. I always say with this, sprinkle some pretty on it,
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's how my baby was birthed.
Baby was birthed. I like it. So you take it serious.
I do. Okay. It's a necessity. Yeah.
Got you. So as a couple of points I want to bring up out of that. So as Kevin Hart says, you're just not gonna breeze by that, like you just didn't say that. So I want to back up a little bit. Back up a little bit. So you wanted to make sure, one, I like what you said where representation matters.
Yes,
because it does.
It does.
Absolutely does.
It does.
So, you know, you, however, ma'am, were not just a trainer. And I'm bringing this up because we're getting way better at it, but there are still a lot of women who are intimidated by this realm of firearms and things of that nature, right? So I always want to make sure I highlight different stories, different women and different perspectives, right? So you weren't just a woman who said, "Oh, I'm going to start doing these things." You were actually a law enforcement instructor.
I was.
So I want people to really hear you say that. You were not only run a business that now you give back to the civilian population, but you as a woman were actually skilled enough, had the knowledge, and instructed cops.
Yes, which are the hardest students to instruct.
Yeah,
you know, not to harp too hard on men, but the law enforcement is dominated by men, right? And when it comes to guns, you got most law enforcement, I would say a great deal of them are former military, right? So they're coming straight out of the military. Or two, they're people who grew up around guns. I've always wanted to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then you have this woman that comes up to you and with this, red Firearms Instructor shirt, and I'm running the range. This is me, it's my baby, right? I'm the RSO, so I'm, the range safety officer, so I'm not playing. And I start telling you, let's say you did 16 years in the military. Then you have this young, hippie looking officer that comes up to you, nose ring, big, I used to have big blonde hair. And I say, hey, you're pulling to the left. That's why you're not center mass. You're pulling to the left. And actually you just missed that. I don't know, you threw one. I don't know what to tell you. And what do you know? They look at me, what do you know? What do you know? I was like, I know a lot, to get here, to get to this point. And to backtrack a little bit, I wasn't always good at at shooting. I almost failed my first police academy because I couldn't shoot.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, like I said, it's a skill.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're naturally just born with. I mean, I'm sure there are some babies that, that shoot out and they're like, ready to go, right? But that wasn't me. I grew up around guns, but I actually did not shoot my first pistol until a couple of days before I went to the police academy, and it was in my parents' backyard. And my dad just said, pick it up, shoot it. And that was it. So yeah, I almost did not pass my first police academy because I was not good. I did not know what I was doing. It was new for me. Everything was just so weird, how to rack slides, and nobody really explained it either. It was just, I was supposed to know. And then, of course, me being me, I've always said to myself, I'm like, I got a question. What do you mean rack the slide? Oh, you're saying I got to pull it back. Why didn't you just say that? I don't understand why you have to use all these tech nomenclature. What are you talking about? Oh, the parts of the gun. Why didn't you just say that? So nobody was really doing that. So anyway, I passed, obviously, right? I passed. Fast forward, I went to another agency that was really good at firearms. And I came out of their academy. They made me go back through because of some of their policies. And I was one of the top female shooters and one of the top 5 in the class. Still didn't think anything of it. I just thought, I listened, I did what they told me to do. But the more I got into it, my last agency I was at, said I really like shooting. I think I really like this. I'm pretty good at it. As we know, people like doing things they're good at, right?
Right.
Pretty good at this. And I kind of liked ruffling some people's feathers at the fact that there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me that were good at it. So actually, when I went to instructor school for law enforcement, I showed up, to tell a real story, I showed up and I actually forgot my magazines. So this is an instructor course that you have to be invited to, okay? So you have to be pretty knowledgeable. They're not gonna just send you to a course in law enforcement unless they know that you might pass. So they sent me there, I show up, I said, oh my God, I don't have my magazines. And they hadn't met me before. And again, I had this big hair. I'm like, I couldn't even wear a cap because my cap didn't even fit my head. It was this whole thing. So I go in there and there's this old guy, they look like they shoot guns, right? And I said, hey, I forgot a really important tool back in my hotel room. Can I go get it? And they just had these big eyes and they just stared at me. And they were like, whatever. So I went back, got it. And I'm all, just now I'm all disheveled because I'm so nervous. I'm loading up mags. Everybody else is already on the line. Forgot to mention, I'm the only Black person. I look like the youngest person, and I'm one out of two women. Out of there was about 20 something people there. So the first thing you have to do is qualify. If you don't qualify with over a 90, you're sent home. There's no talking about it. You didn't qualify, you go home. Right. So here I am loading up magazines. I have a pink speed loader. I'm loading up magazines and I'm like nervous. And then I get up there, I put up my target. Everybody's just staring at me like, who's this girl? Right. She forgot a tool. So anyway, I ended up shooting second best in the whole class and shot a 98. And I looked at the instructors and I said, y'all were betting on me, weren't y'all? I said, I know y'all were betting on me. And they started laughing. They said, we were. We did not think you were going to make it. So, that's kind of my background on that. It's like this bubbly, goofy type of girl. And I just really honed in on what I'm good at and really try to develop those skills. And here I am teaching other people. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think too, when it comes to representation, I don't know if you realize that you might represent more than you believe.
Really?
One thing about your personality and outgoing and being bubbly and kind of like diffusing the tactical toughness, as I like to call it, when it comes to this. Imagine, I understand, and I totally get how women can look at that and be like, great.
Right.
But I'm telling you right now, there are a whole lot of men that are, not knowledgeable with guns, that would like to learn about them, that believe they also have to fit that super tough image.
Right.
That are like, no. So to see you and be like, you know what, she's just being herself.
Yeah. Yeah,
like this doesn't belong to one particular mindset of people.
Right.
I'm pretty sure you are representing and inspiring them as well.
Thank you. Like you said, like I understand why people can kind of be intimidated by a firearm. And I'll say that. I'll say it's a little small explosion going off in your hand. It's a deadly tool. So I get it. I'm like, but let's unpack it. Let's unpack why you need it and how you're going to use it and the importance of it. And I feel like once you do that, and it's not just, look, I'm tactical, you got to put it in your pants and da, da, da. Once you're like, no, you need this to protect yourself and your loved ones, okay? Mm-hmm. You need to exercise your Second Amendment right. We all have it. Why aren't we exercising it, right? And we start talking about it. And I'm like, we can just, this could be a conversation. It doesn't have to be, get on the line and shoot. Now my former line of work, it was like that. Get on the line, shoot. Blah, 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 and they scream at you. But for people who I teach, and people who I want to be educated, which I really want my community to be educated, and seeing my community not being educated on the street, is my heart. It was my heart, like that I wanted to make sure that if we're going to be using these tools, we're doing it lawfully and we're doing it correctly and we're doing it for the right reasons.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about the Second Amendment?
What are my thoughts about the Second Amendment?
How do you feel about the Second Amendment?
Well, I obviously support the Second Amendment. I feel like it's a lot like, as a former police officer, you constantly are hit with, you're constantly educating people on their amendments, right? More so the Fifth Amendment, right?
Right.
So really quick about that. So, when I would talk to people about it, people almost did not know that they had a Fifth Amendment right. Like, the Fifth Amendment right? They have the right to remain silent, but they didn't really think it was for them, right? They didn't really think it was for them. And I feel like that way about the Second Amendment right when it comes to my community. It's like, we know it was there, especially like women, Black women to be exact. We know it was there. We know we have the right to bear arms. But how does that relate to us? Right? How does it? I'm like, what do you mean? It's your right. It's your right. It's for you. And I think because we were kind of intimidated by that whole, I don't think that that's for us. I don't think that I think that, some people might say, I think that's for white people. I think it's for country white people, right? We steer away from it and we steer away from doing the lawful stuff of it, right? As far as like unpacking it and what does it mean to bear arms and how do I do that lawfully? You just don't, for me, what I've seen is that my community just didn't do that. Instead, they would say, yeah, you know what? I don't want to get into like the Second Amendment, but I still need a gun. And I'm just going to pack it and then hope nothing happens to me. And then law enforcement gets involved, right?
Right.
And then we say, no, you can't have that. You can't have that. That's against the law. And they say, well, why not? Isn't my right? How you say that, right? It's my right. But you didn't do the work to really understand what that right was. So I think the Second Amendment to me is something that really can enhance your tool belt, right? A lot of people might have situational awareness, or they might think they know what they're going to do. They might even do some defensive tactics as far as like jujitsu and things like that. They don't realize by exercising that right, especially when it comes to firearms, they can add another tool to their tool to their tool belt, and that's what I do.
Okay.
I hope I explained that well.
No,
Okay,
hey, everybody's viewpoint.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about any right? Is that everyone is going to think about it differently. I think one thing that we've done a disservice to each other by saying that every time I ask you a question, you better say what I expect you to say.
Right.
No, it's absolutely yours, and it's the way that you perceive it, the way that you want. That's the thing about freedom, right?
Right.
We all get this one life to live, unless you believe in reincarnation. I kind of went through a phase. Maybe I'm still in that phase. I don't know yet,
you think you'll come back as a frog? That's you.
You're
coming back as a frog? You might.
Well, maybe a bird.
A bird?
I kind of want to see the world. Maybe a hawk. I don't want to be like a bird.
An eagle.
Eagle, yeah.
Eagles are
Eagle
good.
Work.
That's a good one.
I need to be like a boss in the sky.
You can't be like a pigeon.
Yeah. And then oddly enough, if I came back as a hawk and a beast of the sky, I'm gonna need to make sure I'm protected, because I don't want people with guns shooting at me.
Right, exactly.
Be a little different. But the second amendment, like, to me, I started off, and it's an interesting perspective I have. So I've always been, since I was a teenager, like this little, like civil rights advocate, like human motivator. Yeah, like since I was a teen, because my thing growing up in the neighborhood I grew up in, although I'm not going to claim innocent, like I never was involved in some of the nefarious acts, right? But at the same time, I would look at it and I would perceive the world around me like, guys, this can't be why we were blessed with life, why we're breathing, why we have conscious thought. Yeah, there's something else we're supposed to be doing instead of running around this place, selling drugs, shooting it out with each other, fighting, involved in all these acts, right? Like that might be part of the world in general, but why are we only stuck living this life, right? And I always wanted to get out of that. So I started, researching about how to make things better. And I would be the dude that would, run up on my boys and be like, yeah, but when we gonna stop, right? Like, let's do something different. And this is why. And so from that, I became, and I studied a lot, like, and would bring perspective. And then I would start challenging politicians about different things. Then I joined the city PD in St. Louis, and I worked in the division, prisoner processing division. So you're familiar with processing.
One of the hardest jobs, but go ahead.
Oh my God. Oh my God. See, people don't, I thank you.
They are.
So people don't want to give me, they don't want to give us the credit, man.
Baby like, type of job. I couldn't do it. Woo. Couldn't do it.
And there, it was kind of funny, right? I get there, and then I'll never forget this. It was so funny to me. Like, we get in the back of the paddy wagon. I'm like, this is like the exact opposite what I signed up for. Like, why am I in the back of this thing, right?
Right.
However, they transported us down to the city's range, and it was my first proper introduction to firearms, right? Professional, not street, not hood, professional. And man, when I tell you that I literally walked in a room and started drooling, like seeing these guns, these machines, and then we got on the range, and like you, I think we have way more in common than you think. Yeah. Like you, like we shot the guns, and I'm like, this is me. Like, well, that was fucking cool, man. hey, but why did it go bang? And I'm like, just shoot. Well, you know how the lines are, right?
Just shoot
your gun. I'm like, all
but
right,
why? But how is it doing?
Why did it go bang? I'm like, and why am I holding it like this? Who designed this thing? How many of these are there? Like, I mean, I just got really, I was asking all the really innocent questions.
Right.
And eventually, the guys kind of broke down from me being the annoying kid to, all right, let's just talk to him. So from there, I really went deep into guns. And then I'll never forget, I was standing and I was talking to one of the officers that had made a drop off. And we're standing there talking. And he just in conversation, and he said the Second Amendment. And I just had a light bulb go off. I just had an epiphany. I'm like, you know what? For the last, at that time, 6 years of my little young life, I've been talking to people about civil rights and been pushing forward and equality and human rights and all these things and trying to better my immediate community. And then it hit me. I'm like, what good is it if we fix everything and have no means to protect it? And to me, that's when I knew, like I always knew the Second Amendment was a right.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it that way. And then when I realized that everything that we have and everything that we're trying to protect and everything that we're trying to build, this oversees it, right?
Yeah.
And so that to me is where I absolutely fell like in love with the Second Amendment, because it wasn't because I necessarily love the gun that much.
Right.
I loved what it afforded me.
Exactly.
That's where it was for
and
me.
I feel like that is the deeper picture of it all. There's a lot of, I'll be honest, I'm not really a gun nut. Like, you know, you have that term gun nut, and you have these people that will teach you and be like, I got 6, 7, 8. Now there's a few guns that I want, yes. There's a couple, I kind of want to make them pretty. That's my thing. I do. I want to make, there's some that I have some ideas for. I'm like, oh, that's going to be so pretty. But as far as that, you know, getting all into, I'd like this gun and this is the trigger and blah, blah, blah. I don't really have that. I care more about the education and training portion. Yeah. I care more about why are you carrying? Why do you need to do this? Because I think if you have that mindset, the other gun stuff might come naturally. Or if you have that mindset, you're going to be using it for the right reasons, right? It's not going to just be somebody out here toting around this big old, you know, H&K-45 and then they don't know why they're doing it. I'm like, yeah, because, you know, to protect me. Well, when can you protect yourself? What about laws? Let's talk about laws. Like, when can you do it? When can you do it? Are you just out here, you're just hoping something's going to happen? Because I know me, I don't hope, and I know you'll understand this, I don't hope that something's going to happen to me. I hope I never, ever, ever have to use a firearm to protect. I hope I never, ever have to get to that point. Now I'm trained to the point where if it does happen, I'm ready. But I hope I never have to do that. I'm a fan of, like I've heard you say, running. If I see it hits the fan, I'm out. I am not, when I teach, I tell them, you will not see me out here like, oh no, like stop the people. You're gonna see me one of the people that is running. And if I have to, for some reason, there's no other means but to, you know, defend myself with my firearm, I will. And it's a bad day for whoever that is. But I have no issue with, like you like with the running, right? That's a form of self-defense.
It is.
It is. So yeah, I understand this. To me, it's deeper than the gun.
Now I must admit, and I'm going to admit on camera. And one, let me clarify.
Are you a gun nut?
Well, let me.
Is this you admitting to it?
Clarify. Well, not to clarify because you were very clear. I'm going to expound upon it. So what I like for people to realize, especially when we're working with individuals, and that's why I don't like putting up tons of training information online, because it's nuance, right? So when we get to someone who is shooting a gun for the first or second time in their life, and they're in a defensive course, right? It's like, hey, I don't want you to get stuck thinking because you have this, you can't use that natural ability of self-defense and getting the heck out of Dodge.
Exactly.
You can absolutely run. It's okay with that, right? Because I don't want you thinking, oh, I got this thing, so I'm unstoppable.
Now I have to use it.
No. If you can run, run. Now, in law enforcement, that's really not an option.
We don't, no, there is no, you don't, you run towards it.
You run towards it, right? And that's what I tell people. People are differently. Sometimes your makeup, and sometimes depends on your life experience. Me, for my work in law enforcement and the way I live and how I came up, if guns go off, I'm normally at it, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm a person that goes towards it. However, it doesn't make me a hero if I go towards it, and it doesn't make you a coward if you run. Unless your job calls for it, because that, I'm gonna make the show about that. But when that incident happened down in Florida, the school shooting,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
A county sheriff that's hanging outside while that's happening. Now that makes you a coward, right? Yes. But if you're taking it just to the civilian world, like, hey, you hear a gunshot, I'm okay with you totally making an about face going that way.
So tell people, make an about face and leave if you can.
Oh, absolutely.
You had to leave.
And then when it comes to the gun nut thing, so here's what had happened was.
What? Tell me about it.
Man,
tell me about it.
When I first got, my hands on my first gun, and I will say lawfully, when I first got my hands on my first gun lawfully, My mom used to always tell me, like, when I would get a toy, I would take it apart because I was always inquisitive about what made it move.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I'm going to age myself right now. For those who remember this store called Grandpa Pigeons.
I don't know.
See, don't do that.
I don't
do
know.
that. Look at, see, like, I think
Never heard of it.
you're just shooting shots at me.
Go
Right
ahead.
now. I feel the shots coming. Well, Grandpa Pigeons used to walk in Grandpa Pigeons, and they used to have this, and I forget his name, but he had a name, but it was just a swimmer. And they always had him in water. He's a little remote control swimmer, right?
Okay.
You can stick him in water, make him swim around. And I remember getting one of those, and I took it apart because I wanted to know how he was able to do the things that he was doing. I did the same thing with cars, with little remote control cars and things like that, even real cars when I got them. I wanted to know how things worked. So with guns, it was no different. I was like, wow. And so what happened is one day I had one gun, and then you blink now, and it's
you one of those. You one of those.
I'm one of those.
Oh,
it is like,
I don't have the space for that, but I feel like one day that
I make the space.
That could possibly be me.
I have them all from, and I do get into the as an instructor and as someone who really loves it, the way that I get into it. Yeah. So I am the person with not only the gun, like I go in depth about why this accessory matches that gun, how this was developed. So I will nerd out because I just enjoy it. It's like my hobby at a point. So I will nerd out on it and flat out. So when the general term, when you're not trying to be insulting, because some people like in media will use the term to be insulting, but amongst people that are just trying to gauge like how many guns you got or something like that, I'll be like, are you a gun nut? And I'll be like, guilty, right? Because I have all of them, rifles, shotguns. You know, the only thing I'm missing is a lever action. I got to fix that. Missing a lever action.
Well, you know, Christmas is coming up. So.
Christmas is coming up. I don't know. You know,
you can always give gifts to yourself.
True, but there is one that's been on my hit list. So there are two guns I got to get. So let me get this out the way real quick, because there are people out there that assume that I absolutely despise Glocks for some reason.
I've heard that. Yeah.
I can't.
But I've also seen you shoot one really well, so I think now you actually really like it. Am I wrong?
I never did dislike them.
Okay.
All right. So let's. Okay.
Okay. I'm just saying.
You're so quick with the shots.
I am.
I never disliked them.
Yeah.
I just left a Glock MOS operators class. It was awesome. Talking about my buddy Scotty. Big shouts out to Scotty. The gun that I'm kind of eyeing now, it's two actually. So it's a HK VP9 match, and then it's the Glock 45. So I'm eyeing both of those, and
I should go with the Glock.
But I'll probably get both.
Okay.
And then I'll go out and get into the lever action. But yeah, I like having a plethora. I like them, and I'll sometimes just sit and I'll just nerd out. And then, you know, when I nerd out, I either get on Instagram Live or I call one of my buddies that nerds out too. And I call people a lot smarter than me and be like, hey, this is my question. Help me out.
So question, do you name your guns?
No.
Do you have names for them? You don't.
I will nickname the gun sometimes based off the name. Like I have a Smith & Wesson that I call Smitty, just because it's Smith & Wesson, I call Smitty. But like I don't say Charles.
You're not like, that's Big Martha right there.
No.
Okay.
I mean, no knock against somebody that does, but I'll be wrong to call them the wrong name.
Yeah, I know.
I think I was saying this before. I got like mild dyslexia. I'll switch stuff up. I've been called Mark, Gene, and Gene.
I don't think they would know.
They probably wouldn't. But then they might. I think they have souls sometimes. They might care.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hey, I don't know, man. They could be a little temperamental. I don't know. I'm just saying.
They can.
They can be a little temperamental if you don't treat them right. But no. So I am one of the people that's called a gun nut. But however, this is why I think this is beautiful, because gun ownership. Actually, to me, gun ownership starts before you even own a gun. Because you should understand the responsibilities that come with it, right? The safety and all that. You can know all that before you even own one. And then when you actually get the physical tool, cool. I really honestly tell people all the time, once you get to the point where you own the tool, you got one, great, cool. I want you to be as great with that one as you possibly can be. You got 300, hey bro, rock on. Can I come shoot some of them and play around with them?
Yeah.
Like, so it doesn't really, I don't want people to ever assume they have to gauge their love of the Second Amendment based off how many guns they physically own. Now, it's great to own them because we do have companies that manufacture products. The more products they can sell, the more they can support the Second Amendment and so forth and so on. So we absolutely, there is a consumer side of it and a business side of it that we absolutely want to make sure we're a part of. But then as far as like peer to peer, like I don't ever look at somebody that says, well, man, I only have one gun. I'm like, well, I got 15. So like,
Yeah.
what's your problem, right? And I think people should absolutely not fall into the trap to believe that I'm
Right.
not one of the cool kids unless I have, I don't know,
Well,
whatever number.
Well, guns are expensive.
They are.
They're expensive. So I always say, like, if I'm gonna spend $5 or, at once upon a time I was spending less than that back when I was a police officer and I had the discount. But
We can hook you up, girl. Don't worry about
oh man, it's been rough. It's been rough to look at some of these prices. I'm like, that's what people be paying. Oh Lord. But it's, it's an expensive tool. It's an expensive investment. So what I tell people is, hey, don't just go out here and go buy one just to go have one. If you don't have one, people come in my class and raise their hand. Hey, so what kind of gun should I get? I'll say, I'm not going to tell you what kind of gun you should get. I don't know what gun is going to fit you. But I will say, hey, would you ever buy a pair of $500, $600 shoes without trying them on first? They say, exactly. You're about to spend $500 or $600 on a tool. Go shoot it first. Because I've had many clients who, hey, my boyfriend bought me this, or my dad gave this to me, and we start shooting and they hate it, but now it's theirs. What are you gonna go do with it, right? You're just gonna go drop another $500-$600 on this, or they're like, well, now what do I do? Oh, I don't know. Sell it to me. I don't know. But yeah, I'm here. But yeah, I always tell people, this is a journey. It's a self-defense journey. Journeys aren't necessarily the shortest. I feel like when the word journey is used, nobody says, oh, that's a 3-day stint. It's a process. So learn about them. Yeah. Learn about grip. Learn about double stack versus single stack. Why they're learn about that. Learn about all these different things about the firearm, how it goes bang. And then some people that have taken my class have said, you know what? I don't know if at this moment I'm even ready to buy a firearm because I thought it was easier than this. I think I need to go shoot with you first. That's a good start.
Yeah.
Go shoot with any certified instructor because you might learn. You know what? I thought I wanted this. But I don't like that. I think I like this better. And I think there's a lot of people out there who just want to buy a lot of them to look cool. Good for you. Glad you have that much money. But it makes no sense if you have all of these firearms and you don't know how to shoot them.
Very true. Very true. I often tell people, as being one of those people that's a gun nut, right?
Yeah.
I often tell folks, like, everything that I have, and I'm going to talk about your experience in being out in a training course with me.
Yeah.
And even during that, you saw me several times pick up guns I've never shot before and still do the thing, right? So I always tell people, like, yeah, if you own them, I want you to own them. Right? I'm all for it. However, like, if you get, let's just say somebody jumps from a handgun that they're pretty good with, and they jump up to a rifle. Right. I'm like, cool. Great to see you here. Glad to have you. I'm here to support you in any way you need. And then sometimes I've seen people, and bless their heart, because they're still very good for the business end of it and for freedom. I'm like, hey, great. Glad to have you here in this realm with us. But you have 10 rifles. Love it. And then I literally have had people get out and I'm like, all right, load and make ready with your rifle. And you got 10 rifles at home. You got all the fancy ones. You got Daniel Defense. You got the LMTs, you got all the great stuff. And I'm like, okay, load and make ready. They can't even get the magazine into the wheel. They can't even name the parts of it. And I'm like, see, I want you to have the tools. Matter of fact, you got 10, bump that up if that's how you feel.
Yeah.
But man, you gotta be able to operate it, use it. And you know what? I often tell people, understanding it will help you out as a consumer.
Yes.
You'll make smarter informed purchases, right?
Man,
so absolutely. Yes. So let me ask you this. What is a girl gun?
What is a girl gun?
I don't know. People always say girls gotta have
gun. Don't get me started. What is it?
What's a girl gun?
A guy gun? What's a guy gun?
I don't know.
So it's any gun. It's any gun. Any gun can be a girl gun. Now, what I feel like maybe the common thoughts of what a girl gun is small, colorful, maybe even a revolver. Nothing wrong with revolvers at all. But I think that's what people automatically think of, something cute and small, but like I said before, if you don't know how to even shoot cute and small, then you don't really have anything. You know, you don't have, if you have a car and you have the keys to the car, but you don't know how to drive a car, what good is a car? You know?
Very true.
So, yeah, I think now personally, I think a girl gun is any gun. It's any gun. You just have to learn how to use it. Like I said before, shooting is a skill. I will sit in front of my class and I will show them some locking the slide back to the rear, right? All right. I remember my first gun was an H&K 45, right?
Good gun.
My God, yes. A good gun, yes. Big gun.
Big gun, yes.
Big gun. And I remember they said, lock the slide to the rear. And I was like, what? What? I remember I was this person. And nobody really broke down to me, hey, this is not a strength contest. You know, because all I saw was the strong people doing it, you know? So I'm like, okay, this has to be like, because it's, you know, you take strength. You know, it's not, it's a skill. It's just, you have to learn how the firearm works, okay? One person's gonna go this way, the other person's gonna go this way. Hey guys, the slide moves back. You know, this is how you see this little lever right here? It's gonna lock on the slide. There's a little indentation right here. That's how it's stopping it. It's not that deep. There's no magic happening. This is just how it's made. And I think once they understand that, like I use a Glock 19 in my class. I make them work on a Glock 19. If you look at a Glock 19 or a Glock 17, don't you have a Glock 17?
I have a 19 and a 17.
Right. I just want to hear you say
I see what you did there.
Yeah. But anyway, you know, those are not necessarily, I feel like, what people look at and say girl guns because they're bigger, right? But I pick it up, I show it to them. Hey, you're gonna lock the slide back, right? Show them, boom. That's how you do it. Then they do it and they struggle and they're like, but I can't do it. Well, you're stronger than me. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And don't let people tell you that because sometimes you'll go to these gun stores and you'll say, I don't like the recoil. And then they've never even shot a gun, so they don't even know what the recoil feels like of a gun, right? The kickback. So I'm like, what? If you have the fundamentals right? The stance, the grip, you can handle the recoil, right? But I think because a lot of women were afraid to even touch it, and then this is an industry dominated by men. Yes. Right? Bigger men a lot of the time. You know, they make it almost, you know, all you see are men handling guns, right? Whether it's your dad, your boyfriend, the guy at the front of the store, Bass Pro, whoever. You don't see anybody that looks like you do it. It gives you this mindset of like, well, then it's not for me. And then that means I probably can't get a gun like him because I've never seen that guy handle a pink gun, a small pink gun. So maybe that's what I need. The small pink guns are for the women. No, you handle the same gun that this guy's gonna handle. You know what I'm saying? Right. So yeah, to get back to your question, all guns are girl guns or woman guns. Okay, lady guns.
Lady guns.
Yeah, lady guns.
Like.
Yeah.
You know, so I like that answer. You know, because I've often said like, you know, and I've been doing this for 17 odd years, and I have if to know me is to know that I like to break things down. And when women would come, and it's a very honest question because of what they've heard. They're like, exactly. Okay, so you're gonna take me shopping for a girl gun? I'm like,
yeah, what is that?
No, I said, and I used to tell them all the time, like, you like my gun, right? Well, yeah, but you're a guy. I'm like, doesn't matter. Like you can own anything you want. There are no limitations. And then I would get into it like, hey, women have equal rights, right? This thing is going to protect you. It's a right. So you exercise this right just like Bill would, right? It's really no different. And so I like to push that envelope a little bit. One thing that had annoyed me for a while was the gun counter. And there were a lot of salesmen that would see women walk in and immediately walk them over to the stub nose revolvers without a question, right? And I'm like, hey, that's not fair. And I can get into the whole conversation why, you know, and I'll just start with, right? So if you want to judge a woman and say her hands, which is probably true across the smaller, not as strong, right? Okay, cool. But you do understand that a revolver is going to have damn near a 60% increase in trigger pull weight, right? So it's like, why would we want to do that? Why don't you allow this woman to shoot, explore, things like that? So I totally agree with you that I like that, and I think we're gonna highlight that. I might quote you.
Yeah, no, just make sure you put the dash Kayla Christian.
I got you. I got you because I don't feel like you calling me and giving me problems. So gonna transition a little
Yeah.
bit. All right, we're gonna come back to the guns, but I want to ask you something.
Oh gosh.
Let's talk about dating.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about dating.
All
So
right.
you're an attractive woman.
Oh, thank you.
You are, you are single.
Yes.
Okay. You have any children?
No.
Ever been married?
Nope.
So I'm gonna ask the very, very Neanderthal question. Why?
Why?
Yeah. What's up with the dating? How come nobody snatched you up?
Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Well, I think. Well, I have high standards, right? A lot of women will say that they have high standards. I'm really big on I don't want to settle. So I think a lot of people do the bare minimum, or how do I put it? I think everybody has their standards, right? Every woman has certain standards, and they're all different. I have certain things that I like. Now, I'm not too picky. I'm not one of these people that have like the Christmas list of you got to be this, you got to do this, you got to make money, you got to do, but there are certain standards that I have as far as like, yeah, I need you to be ambitious.
Okay.
I need you to be able to push yourself. You got to have some sort of goal somewhere. I'm really big on things like that. I'm a Christian. I would like my significant other to also be a Christian. And it's like you might meet somebody that has some of those, but like then they'll be like, for me, I'm an atheist, and I'll be like, that doesn't work out for me. Or what I ran into, okay, I can speak for myself, what I ran into, as a police officer, right? Mm-hmm. Man, being a police officer right now is just like, right. Not the most attractive thing for a woman, or for, I should say, a Black woman. So dating, I wouldn't initially tell people I'm a cop. I would wait and fill them out. And then you might hear somebody say, man, F them or something like that. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, do you not really like any cops? Or, I try to fill them out. And this is back when I was a cop. And they'll be like, nah, I just hate all of them. But like, all right, well, that's that. That's what's paying my bills. So, I would hear things like that. Or even I would hear, oh, that means you're going to protect me, right? Because they assume, okay, so I'm a cop. If you just read what I did, right? You just saw my name, you didn't see me, you didn't know anything else about me. All right, Kayla Christian, 8-year, cop, firearms instructor, defensive tactics, blah, 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 firearms business, defensive tactics. There might be a look you might think of, right? And people people lie about it. I don't put anybody's face to that, but you do, right? There's a look that they think about that, or there's an idea that comes behind that means she is going to like protect me, right? And I used to hate that. Like, yes, I'm going to protect anybody who I'm around or myself. But although I did these harder things, I'm soft, I'm soft, I'm feminine. I want to be able to be, protected. Or like I used to say, I want to be able to be like, protect me. Like, watch my six, like watch me. And I think what I've experienced is a lot of guys who were not situationally aware, wanted to act big and bad, because now they're around me, but they weren't. Or they wanted me to basically like, pick them up, hold them. Okay. And I just I haven't been looking for that. So, and honestly, I didn't see that there was a lot out there to choose from. So it's been kind of rough. And I'm gonna call it out in Richmond, Virginia, where I live at. It's been a little rough out there. So that's why, I've had people come up to me, but some of them just don't make the cut. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So what's your stance about income? Because I asked that because that is like one of the biggest conversations over the last year or so. It's like you can be an ideal person. Yes. And you could be employed, but if you don't make above, I don't know, let's throw a number out there. Let's say $70,000. Yeah. Depending on where you live. If you don't make 70 grand, 80 grand, you're not good enough for me. So how do you look at, he can have all your other standards and he makes $27,000 a year. How do you handle that?
I guess I would look at, are you making, first of all, any type of income is good income. Okay. I have not always made any, like what I made today, right? It took me a while when I first started policing, quite honestly, I was making around that. So it took me a while to get there. I feel like what's his goal? Like that's just a conversation. So, hey, your goal is to make this, okay? So, or let's say his goal is to make 27,000. All right, what are you expecting to do with that? Are you trying to buy a house? I mean, let's be honest, houses cost more than 27,000, right? So are you trying to buy a house? Okay, how are you planning to get there with this income? Is there a plan? Are you just one of those people who make this, but you want this and you have no plan to get here, you know? Or you have some people that say, yeah, I make this and I'm totally okay. And I plan to go live in a tree house that costs like $10 to build and I'm not gonna need to pay mortgage. And yeah, that's okay. I'm fine with that, quite honestly. I mean, from, my point of view, I would just have to be like, well, listen, I don't want to live in a tree house. But I'm willing to put forth some of my money to help us not live in a tree house, if you're okay with that. But yeah, I have an issue with I make this, but I want this. And then you have no means of getting there. Or I make this, but then you're spending all of your money on these materialistic things that are not helping you grow. So, and that's how I look at that. I mean, I've dated guys before who, I mean, I know we say don't date for potential, and I get that. But I've dated guys before who, from getting to know them, I know they're smart, they got a lot going on, and eventually in a year or two, they probably gonna get that job that they want, right? You just kind of see them through. So I say in college, I dated a guy that was literally drive to hoopty. Literally, we had to hop through his front door, his front driver's side door to get in the car. Like, had no AC, working at Taco Bell, was an engineer, smart. Now, if you did not know him, you would not know that he was engineering. He was smart, very creative. But I knew that because I was dating him, right? Now, I would say I had some friends that were like, why are you dating him? Why are you dating him? Girl, like, it's cold out here. We're going to school in the mountains. Like, he don't have no AC. They're like, you have a car. Why isn't he driving your car? Because it's not his car. It's not his car. He wants to drive me around. He wants to chauffeur me around. He's going to do it in his car, And in my mind, I'm like, and guess what? In 6 months, he ain't going to be right there. And I was right. He ended up becoming an engineer. Did really well for himself and bought himself a really nice car and did really well. We didn't work out for other reasons, but, that's the story with sometimes, people I feel like disregard, or women will disregard, and men, who are not maybe, making this much or this much, but some of these people do have the potential to do that, or understand why they're not doing that. Maybe they don't want to do that. It's not all about money to everybody. I didn't grow up like that. My parents didn't come from money. And they have never, even though they worked so hard in life, they've never prided themselves on making money. Gotcha. They prided themselves on the work that they did. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. So for me, I remember when in my early 20s, I was probably making $26,000 a year.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to watch how things develop. Now, my income is nowhere near that, right? It's pretty decent, not where I want it to be because I always strive for more.
Right.
But I'm listening to all these conversations out about, what do we call it? High value men. I think it's the new term, right? And income wise, I fit it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I get it. I get the conversation. I totally get it. But for me, if I was single and I was out dating a woman and I'm making $125,000 a year, if that was one of the reasons why she was with me, I wouldn't want to be with her.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Like, I get that you can say great on the one side of things. As a woman, I know that as long as he's not a jerk, he has the ability to provide.
Yeah.
If he's even pushing for more, then he's going to be successful, be a great father for my children. I'll be able to say that I am attached to someone that is doing well, and thus should motivate me to do well. And you kind of come
together. And it
looks
looks good to be with somebody who, you do feel a sense of security if you are with somebody who makes what you make or more than what you make. But you said high value man. The income does not make a man valuable, because you can have a guy that makes well over 6 figures and is a jerk.
Yes.
I've seen it before many of times. So that, to me, you could be a millionaire and still be an abuser. for women and women, you know?
Very true. I
Yeah.
definitely agree that a man, and not to say anything negative against women or take women out of the conversation, but a man that has value exceeds his financial abilities.
Yes.
It absolutely does.
Mm-hmm.
So you plan on or have dreams of marriage?
I do. I
Okay.
do. My parents, my whole family, I'm very, very family oriented. My parents have been married for 37 years plus. My brother has been married for 6 years. You know, marriage has always been in my backyard, right? This is what I grew up on, successful marriages. So yeah, I want to get married. I'm not getting any younger.
Will you leave Richmond?
Yeah, I will leave Richmond. I want to leave Richmond. I would love to leave Richmond. I love Richmond. I love Richmond. I love where I'm from. But yeah, I would hope to get married someday, whenever that's coming. Whenever he finds me, I hope to have some kids, pop them out, you know.
Pop out, baby. How many kids you want?
I want 3.
3 kids? Where'd you get that number from?
I don't know. I don't know.
Just
I would say I grew up with one brother. I do have a huge family. I have about like 13 or so first cousins. And we are all, a big old country family. We're all around the same age. I have one brother. I would have loved to have another sibling because sometimes he just annoys me, you know, to this day. Love him to death. But, I like the idea of having a big family. And that's what I want for myself if, you know, God sees it fit. Yeah.
Okay, well, I hope this show doesn't cause your DMs to explode and get uncontrollable. But I think I asked you those questions to actually combat one thing that a lot of people doesn't believe exists, which is, I think in the world, you know, negativity always gets amplified, right?
Right.
No matter what it is. So, and when it comes to dating, or even marriage, I think that people that are looking for suitable partners only see what doesn't work. And they only see or highlight in their mind the person that they had hope in didn't work out, or I met this person, it didn't work out. But there are still men and women out there that are seeking that. And we just have to stop listening to all the negativity and seek out, be optimistic.
Exactly.
Right? Go after what you want and seek it out. And I think that a lot of people will find it if they kind of change their own mindset. Right. And get to it. So last little thing about dating, I'm curious about.
Okay.
So for a lot of reasons, I'm going to say it.
Okay.
Try not to like hop out your seat and come over and choke me.
Okay.
All right.
Let me just go ahead.
Yeah. See how you're getting prepared. You're getting ready to pounce.
Okay.
I think a lot of women, for good reason though. I'm not saying they don't have valid reasons, but I believe they're a little rough. They can be a little hard to approach.
Okay.
They can be a little, and I'm not saying they don't have reasons.
Right.
But the man can't fix that, right?
Right.
No, he's just dealing with what he's dealing with.
Yeah.
So if you could tell men,
and
I know maybe you necessarily, well, I don't know, you did say you were pretty defensive. I don't know. So how does a man, what's your generic advice for a man to work around a woman who might be a cream puff, but he's got to get around those defensives. He's got to get around that rough edge to that woman. What should he do?
I'm gonna be real. Some women, you're not going to be able to get around because they have to do the work internally so that they can knock down some of those walls. Okay. There's some women that just are so hard on the exterior because they need to do some unpacking on why they're like that. That's not for, they don't even need to be in no relationship with a man anyway. So for those women, we can ignore those. But there's some, yes, who are like what you're speaking of, that, you know, you have to do a little work. You got to chip away a little bit.
How though? What are we doing? Like generically, what are we doing?
I think, of course, be aware of your approach, right? Be aware of your approach and be patient. Figure out why she is the way that she is, right? Do some unpacking. And I would say be honest. Like a person like me, I like directness. So I will respect a man so much more if he's like, listen, when I first approached you, you were hard. Like you were cold. I almost ain't even talk to you. Cause I would say at one point I was that, right? I've been that probably during different seasons of my life, after a breakup, or after just tons of bad dating. You know, it could kind of make me a pessimist when a guy's approaching me. I'm like, what do you want? Like, you know, what do you want? What do you want? And sometimes guys, you know, they won't say anything to the woman either. So now I don't realize that I'm coming off as hard as I am. You know, I might think I'm being a little short, but I don't realize how it makes the guy feel. So I think if a guy's pursuing a woman and she coming off hard, maybe tell her.
Okay.
Maybe tell her, say, hey, is something I'm doing wrong? Or I'm just wondering because this is what I'm seeing. And if that's the case, should I exit stage left or what? Because if you get a woman like me who's doing that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, no, that is not how I meant to come off. I'm just, listen, like, I'm just tired of guys coming up to me who are just wanting this. I don't have time. And then that guy may say, well, that's not what I was coming up to you for, actually. You know, I actually want to do this. So I think it's a conversation. I'll say for the guy, hey, don't be so quick to just cut her off either.
You know, that's funny. And I'm gonna say this.
I think it's an ego. It's a punch to the
it's
guy,
ego.
right? It's
and a lot of men too that are looking for someone because being a Christian, I'm a Christian as well.
Yeah.
And you know, it's clearly stated, he who findeth, right?
Yes, it does say he who findeth the wife. Yes.
Yeah, if we're out there pursuing that, or just pursuing a mate, you know, to see where it could go, we have to learn how to really be, you know, patient. At the same time, I think a lot of men, when they see that roughness, they immediately think she's going to be combative in a relationship, so they'll go left. Now, I will tell this funny story, and I'm going to ask you this last question because the producer keeps telling us to wrap it up.
Okay.
All right. What am I going to ask you? So, my statement is this: my wife. All right, I've been married for 10 years, a little bit over 10 years now, and I couldn't spell marriage before I met her. Like, don't even ask me to spell it. I don't want all that junk. I don't want none of that. Right. So it's a beautiful experience. But I remember we exchanged numbers, and she started playing this little game with me. Right.
Right.
So
she sounds
for
fun.
a week straight, I am not an aggressive pursuer.
Yeah.
Right. I'll let you know I'm interested. I'll be very clear about that. But I'm not going to like stalk you. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So I would call her once a day. And so I started Monday. I would call her. She didn't answer. So later on that day, I would send a text message.
Yeah.
Right. I did that Monday through Friday. She did not respond to me at all.
Okay.
Right. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Not necessarily being rough, but you're definitely not showing me that you're interested. Right.
Right.
And so then to your point about kind of like be kind of creative with your moves, I just sent her, to let her know it's no hard feelings, my very last text to her, I said, hey, I'm breaking up with you. Clearly you don't want to be bothered, right? Now we weren't even in a relationship, right? But that's my way of joking. Yeah. Saying, hey, I'm breaking up with you. You know, I get it. It's you're not interested. It's cool. I deleted her number from my phone.
Right.
Like immediately after I sent the text.
Yeah.
Deleted her number.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to reach back out to her. She called me immediately.
Right.
Like immediately. Like, no, hold on. To your point, right? She's like, no, don't. And then not too far in the future, she wanted to be my wife.
You know, see, I like your wife already. Because sometimes it could be just a bad communicator. You know, I know when I first started my business, I had a lot of people reaching out to me for all sorts of reasons, right? I became very overwhelmed. It was like, and I thought, like, because there were some guys who just reached out to me just because they didn't want anything. So there, like, I did have some people reach out to me, and I immediately just blocked them off. I didn't know what it was. Later read the DM, and it had nothing to do with trying to hit at me. It was, so then I'm having to piggyback and say, hey, listen, I just was sucking really bad at communicating, and I was overwhelmed. Please give me a second chance. Like, it's not that, I promise. So I understand. It's like, wait, no, I just lost this guy.
Yeah, actually, I think I DM'd you too.
But did I ignore you?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
You see that right there? You see
I'm
that?
sorry.
Now look at you sitting across from me.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Right, so
I know somebody else too. I did that too.
So the last thing, and then I'll let you have your evening back. So, former police officer.
Yes.
And trainer.
Yes.
Now I'm going to, and I'm not picking on cops with this. I'm picking on anybody who believes because they've ever had any form of training or experience, could be with their uncle in the backyard shooting. Yes. There's this mentality. There's nothing else you can teach me.
Right.
Right. Like, I got this. I got it. I'm good. Like I shot 5 years ago. I know how to handle a gun.
Right.
So you being not only a law enforcement trainer yourself, and now training the civilian populace, which I'm sure you will still train law enforcement if they call upon your services. You just attended a firearms training course.
Yes.
Right. So before I ask you about your experience, what I want to point out is that a law enforcement trainer went to a training course.
Yes. Basic.
A basic fundamental training course. Why in the world don't more people that have a little bit of
Yeah.
experience with guns, or maybe a lot of experience with guns, believe that they need to continue to train and they can learn from other people?
Ego.
Okay.
Ego. I mean, that's just truth of the matter. It's an ego. It's I don't need to brush up on this. I teach this, blah, blah, blah. But that's my I teach it, and I never really get to do it. You know, I can teach all day how to stand, how to point a firearm, sight alignment, all that. But how do you grow as a person, as a student, if you don't hear, or instructor, if you don't hear anybody else's perspective? How do you grow, right? How am I gonna get better? I know, because I do have a lot of experience, I knew I could be better, right? I'm very hard on myself in general. So, dry firing, I was dry firing with my friend Devin, and I even said, man, I'm quick out the holster, but it takes me a long time to get that first round off. Now, to just a person who never shoots, they're probably like, girl, what are you talking about? You're really good. But I knew, like, I still need to brush up on stuff too. And I need to know, like, different perspectives of, just basic fundamentals, so I can be a better shooter, so I can be a better student, so I can be a better instructor. Taking your course, I changed up a fundamental step that if you would have asked me a week ago, what would you change up in your fundamentals? I was like, nothing. Fundamentals, I've been going over fundamentals for 8 years. I've shot like this for 8 years. It's worked for me. I've been successful. I'm not changing up anything. Pistol courses, basic pistol courses, give you that freedom to work on stuff, right? To be a student. At times, I feel like as an instructor, or if you put your resume out there, you feel like you kind of have to stick to what you know now, right? Because then you have this expectation to meet, and you might screw up if you change something else. Right? It gave me that freedom to say, you know what? What did I tell you? I'm going to change my stance. I'm going to just try it. I teach people this stance. I don't ever shoot like this. Try it. And I did much better than what I normally do. And I was like, oh, wow. I might start teaching people this now more than this. Or I can say now, hey, I've shot this way and this way. And both work. But there's certain things, hey, you might want to look at this way versus this way. You're always a student. I think you should always be a student. There's always more to learn. I learned a lot. I changed up my stance. I said that when I left. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And I did really well. And I learned so much, and a lot that I'm going to bring back to my students.
And that's what we're here for each other for,
yes.
right? And I can't wait to jump in one of your classes, right?
Yeah.
It's just the way it's supposed to work.
KD's going to be in one of my classes?
Absolutely.
Get you a front seat in the class.
That's fine. I will absolutely do it. I often go to people's, I understand that I'm blessed in my position a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So I find that actually enjoying, I've literally been on the range with the world's best, right? So it's always great for me when I'm like, I see people that are maybe just focused on teaching other things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, cool. So there's been a lot of people that have started their businesses in the last couple of years and blah, blah, blah. And they'll have that same response to be like, hey, I'm coming to your class. They're like, what? Someone get real nervous. They're like, you're gonna do what? Like, I'm coming to your class because I want to check it out. And you know what? Hey, you might say some stuff that I ain't heard. You might do some things I haven't heard, right? So if nothing else, you might give me more knowledge to transfer back to my students, my clientele. And I often tell people, if you're not going to focus on the fundamentals and the mechanical moves, and you're not going to get great at those things, you can take tactics and flush it down the toilet because you have none.
Exactly.
Right? You'll never be able to get to the tactics
foundation.
Right.
I mean, fundamentals is the foundation.
Yes.
So if we're teaching basic students, and let's say I only have this way to teach them, and let's say I'm struggling with teaching grip, that's kind of what I told you. I was like, man, I can teach grip, but the way you taught grip, I'm taking that back. I was like, it was like light bulbs go in my head and go off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like if I could teach them this, then they're gonna learn this a lot better, because now I just saw this, then now I'm doing this. So you have to always be a student. I don't know. I'm sure you take some pistol courses.
All
the basic
pistol, everything.
You're one of the best shooters out there. You take the.
Oh, you heard her say it. One of the.
I saw you.
She did see me get down.
I did with that Glock. I did.
Oh my God. There you go
saw it.
There you go.
I did. I'm a Glock girl. So so that's why I took the course. I offered it, and I was like, heck yeah, I'll be a student. And this is actually my first. I don't know if you knew this. This was my first course as a civilian. Yes, this is my first course as just a regular person, just taking a course. So I really enjoyed being a student again because I never get to do that. So.
And it was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up. I mean, I could sit here and talk to you forever.
Oh,
I mean, you have such you're an easy person to talk to.
Yeah.
Your demeanor is pleasant. You know, you are very bubbly, which relaxes me. So I really, really have appreciated your time and your presence today on the couch at Stogies and Straps. Now it is time to talk strictly about you and how people can reach you for classes or advice or whatever. So how do people get in touch with you and patronize your services?
Yes, you can always go visit my website, www.prettydefensive.com, or you can find me on Facebook at Pretty Defensive, Firearms and Defense Tactics. And then on Instagram, it is at pretty.defensive. And then also, if you ever just want to know more information about becoming a member of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, I'm also an account executive with them. Okay. I'm sure I'll do something else as far as talking about the reasons why you need to become a member with them. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Yes.
I remember for years.
Yes. So I also do that, but I'm going to be putting all of that on my social media, and that's where you should find me. Go to my website or go to my social media.
All right. And I will say I am happy to see your new relationship with USCCA. USCCA has been phenomenal.
Yes.
I mean, phenomenal supporter of my work. They've been a great resource. They've and I know that they care about what they do.
Yes, great organization.
Yeah, they're a great organization. So USCCA is definitely in the hierarchy of companies and organizations that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. So I'm glad to see you join a winning team.
Yes.
Happy to see that. All right, well, it's been great having you. Can't wait to have you on again. Can't wait to be in one of your classes, and can't wait to have you back in one of mine. So
all right, thank you.
All right, we'll see you later. Peace out, guys.